Welcome to another episode of Speciality Sessions with me, your host, Natasha. Today, I'm joined on the podcast by Thoralf Gliese, Chief Commercial Officer at Omya. Welcome to the podcast.
Natasha, thanks for having me.
For anyone that doesn't know you and doesn't know Omya, would you mind just telling us a little bit about you and a bit about the business?
Sure. So my name is Thoralf Gliese. I was born and raised in Berlin, or close to Berlin, actually East Berlin. I studied chemical engineering at the Technical University of Dresden with a specialization in paper technology. Then I stayed in Munich for my PhD thesis on biotechnology before I moved to Austria to work in a integrated pulp and paper mill close to Salzburg for almost 8 years. At that time, I became a customer of Omya, and then Omya convinced me to jump over the fence to the other side. So in 2003, I joined Omya, since then I'm working here, so more than 22 years. And today I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Omya Specialty Materials.
You came from the paper industry originally, as you said, being a customer of Omya. What made you decide to make that change? Because it's quite a difference.
Actually, I was not actively looking for a new job or for a change. It was like quite often in life, it was a coincidence. So I had a quite steep career in that paper mill I was working for. So I was happy with my situation, with my job. But then there was this offer from Omya. So for me, it was then the new opportunity, the possibility to change, but also to let it break out of the paper and board industry to learn more about other industries. Because Omya, as you know, is a mineral company, mostly known as mineral company, where we supply to different industry, from paper and board, as I said before, to paints and coatings, plastics, pharmaceutical, nutraceuticals, agricultural applications, water treatment, air treatment, so many applications. And that was quite appealing to me. That's why I said, okay, let's use the opportunity as long as the door is open. And I was jumping over the fence.
You've always kept one foot in academia alongside working in other businesses for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that continue to be important? Because in terms of workload, it's quite high, the commitment, your current role, traveling, obviously being there around the students, being able to advise and support. So why run those things concurrently?
As you say, the time commitment is quite heavy, to be honest. And of course, I have reduced my teaching a little bit because of my functions, which were growing all the time in Omya. But half jokingly, I always say that this professorship is my intellectual fitness program. So this helps me to stay connected to, let's say, science. It helps me to be always up to date when it comes to technical aspects.
A lot of the episodes that I've recorded in the past, a really big topic is about getting people to work, not just study, but to then move on and work within the industry and retain them and keep them within the industry. So the pipelining through the university, I think, is so important, whether that's on a personal level because it's something that you enjoy doing, or whether it's businesses more broadly that have a really targeted approach to that. Do you think enough, especially the larger organisations, do you think we're doing enough as an industry to attract young people and bring them directly in, whether that's working on a bench or whether that's looking at commercial functions or other? Do you think we're doing enough of that?
I would say you never can do enough, because it's really, especially nowadays where, all industrial and commercial activities are so much technology driven. You need well-educated people who are motivated, high performing, and have a very good understanding of, let's say, industrial science and engineering aspects. So from that point of view, being close to them, supporting them, integrating them at an early stage of their career into industrial or commercial processes is extremely important. And of course, it's also an important source of inspiration, because, by nature, this is the next generation of end consumers. So they have also, they bring in ideas and views that you don't have if you just in that industry and you work on your concepts, but they bring in things or they illuminate aspects from a totally different angle, which is extremely helpful. That means close cooperation to universities has always been a very important aspect in the day-to-day business of Omya. So it's not only the Munich University of Applied Science. We have cooperations with universities in UK, with Aalto University in Finland and other universities. So it's always important for us to be close to these, I think, typical scientific institutions.
And I think it's important for young people to understand that just because they're studying chemistry doesn't mean they have to work directly in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
I've speak again to lots of people who are more advanced in their careers that say, you know, when I was studying, I realized quite quickly I didn't want just to work on a bench. And that's something that you and I have spoken about. You know, you've spoken about wanting to be closer to customers.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that matter so much to you?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I mean, it was quite an amazing experience for me when I was changing from the paper industry to Omya. Even that I started in R&D, I suddenly spent, I would say, the majority of my time with customers. And that's so helpful and so valuable, because this is creating an intimacy that helps you a lot in product development, in innovation, in anticipating their needs, not only today, but also in 5, 10 years down the road. So for me, it was very important, because then you really see the value of what you are doing. And I mean, and of course, also you avoid that you sitting in an ivory tower, you develop something which is not needed by the market. So we always try to be, and that was important for me also personally, to be as close as possible to the customer, understanding their needs, understanding their problems, also helping them troubleshooting if they're facing problems. So this is very important for us. I mean, this is also something which was extremely appealing to me when I joined Omya, because I mean, we do not talk only about being customer focused. We really are.
And when you made that move from more technically focused roles into commercially focused, was there anything about that change that challenged assumptions that you had previously, even if overall it felt like a positive change?
I wouldn't say it has been a challenge. I mean, of course, there were some various concerns whether I can really familiarize myself with all these applications I was not familiar with. I mean, especially paints and coatings, plastics, and farming and things like this. But if you have a basic and a good fundamental knowledge about industrial processes, chemistry, and things like this, I mean, you have all the methodology and all the skills that you need, transferable skills, to really apply them also in other industries. And I think it's all about listening to customers, listening to their problems, and then you can apply your knowledge. I think it was a little bit of a challenge in the beginning, but I think at the end of the day, and this is a learning that I have still today, is, I mean, if you don't move out of your comfort zone, you will never succeed.
You mentioned transferable skills there. That's something I talk about a lot, especially when I'm hiring for clients. And I'm not always saying that it's appropriate to take someone out of industry or from a different segment or a different discipline. It
Mhm.
obviously depends role by role. I'm always going to caveat that. But I do think sometimes transferable skills are underestimated. And you're a really good example of how transferable skills can support a development of career, whether that's moving from the paper industry into a different part of the value chain, whether it's moving from technical into commercial. How important do you think it is for companies to consider that adjacent sector experience? Because I sometimes observe that even if somebody says, yeah, we're really open to it, if two candidates are equally as good, one has
Mhm.
a segment experience and one doesn't, they will always go for the person with the segment experience, for example, because it takes less time to train, right?
That's true on one hand side. On the other side, I
Mm.
think if you bring a fresh pair of eyes, fresh blood into the situation, it really changes the picture. And I think the value, also the additional benefits that you have by bringing someone from an adjacent industry into your business, really adds value. And this is completely underestimated from my point of view. I mean, you see other industries, you see other company cultures, you see other technologies, approaches, and you just apply them or redeploy them in a different situation. And that helps a lot. I mean, quite often we are used to do again and again the same thing and try same technologies or approaches, But then something from outside is coming in and say, okay, why didn't you try this one? Or why did you look at this in a different way? And that helps a lot. And I think, I mean, today, I mean, learning is so much easier with all the tools that we have. So sets can be developed quite fastly. I mean, the only thing which I think can speak against hiring people from adjacent industry is, and this could be an issue for a distributor, is, I mean, you don't have the people network. But again, this is something that you can develop over time and also develop very quickly if you want to.
And it's interesting, actually, because in episode 5, actually, with Marcus Jordan, we touched on this. And IMCD are quite well known for moving people internally, whether that's functions, whether that's disciplines. But obviously, it's much easier to do that internally when you've already got the trust and you understand how that person operates. But to bring somebody from a different segment externally, what do you think has to be in place for that transition to work well in practice?
I think what is needed is a proper, well-structured and good induction and training program for the new hires. That means they need to be familiarized with all aspects of the business that you are in, starting with headquarter functions down to production, logistics, services, things like this. This is typically a program that will last or has to last a couple of months until these people are completely familiarized and feel also well and comfortable with the new situation, because it's nothing that happens overnight. It needs time, and you need to invest into this. So it's an upfront investment into people that you need to be aware of, and then I think the transition can be successful.
And how do you onboard people effectively when, for example, like yourself, when they know the application and the market, but they're newer to sort of the chemical side of the supply chain?
I mean, as I said, I mean it's mainly the introduction and training program that we are designing in a way that the people get to know Omya, but also get to know our ways of making business, our modus operandi. It's also including, let's say, first contacts to customers and principals, which is very important, because I mean, only by being confronted with the outside world, with our customers and principals, they learn how we are working and what makes us hopefully more competitive than others.
Omya has obviously been associated in lots of people's minds with mining and minerals, certainly mine included. But the distribution piece is longer and broader than most people realize, I think. How do you explain that evolution?
That's a good question. I mean, and thanks for asking it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the beginnings of the Omya distribution business can be traced back to the year 1894. Most people don't know that. So we are more than 130 years in that business. And I think for us, the distribution part has always been, let's say, in the DNA of the Omya people, Omya sales approach, because we are a producer of minerals, industrial minerals, such as ground calcium carbonate, precipitated calcium carbonate, pearlite, dolomite. But with these minerals, you can do a lot, but not everything. So if you want to be perceived, if you really want to act as a solution provider, you need other minerals and other additives. This is something that we always had in our minds, because we want to incorporate these other products into our solutions. Just to give you a very simple example, I mean, if you are offering a solution to a paints and coatings manufacturer, I mean, our products are great to have. And sometimes they are even the body of the recipe. But in addition, you need a titanium dioxide, you need a binder, you need a rheology modifier or a dye stuff. So this is what we bring in. So we incorporate other products, including also the innovation products of other principles, into our solution. And that helps a lot. And that helps us to grow faster, and also to have solutions that we can offer, which are different to, I would say, the standards that you find in the industry.
And when you shift market perception, because the distribution piece is newer in the last 15 years, how do you shift that market perception without sounding like you're rewriting your own story? Because you've got this, 115 years of history, and now you're moving into distribution. It's a step change for the market in terms of how you present the business, even your sales approach.
Yeah, that's a key question, because I was hearing a lot of questions in the past where people said, who are you? Are you a manufacturer? Are you a distributor? Or are you a kind of hybrid? With the more recent repositioning and reorganization of Omya, where we were splitting Omya into 3 units, 2 of them focusing on distribution, I think we have now a clear answer to that question. And it also helps us internally to focus and to optimize these different units individually and to make them more efficient, more profitable, of course, but also with a clearer focus on what we want to accomplish. And I think it's not that we are reinventing ourselves. I think it's more about a strategic focus and a clear aspiration that we want to grow the business. And if you look at the chemical distributor industry globally, I mean, it's one of the most fragmented industries that you can see. I mean, you have the giants, then you have the let's say the champions of the players which are having 4 or 5 billion US dollars turnover like us, and then you have a long tail end of small players. The demands to a chemical distributors are becoming more and more demanding and challenging. Does not only include technology and innovation aspects. I'm thinking about logistics services, but also regulatory services. I mean, with all the new laws and regulations coming into place, I mean, you need experts on that side that can support a customer. And I think it's self-explanatory and very obvious that if you are a small player in that field, you can't afford to have all these resources because they are expensive. And you need a certain, I think, critical mass to create synergy and benefits where both the principal, distributor, and the customer can benefit from.
When there is a change in the business, like, adding the distribution arm, how does that shape the way you go to market? Because like you say, people will ask, are you a manufacturer? Are you a distributor? Are you a hybrid? Like, how do you approach that now?
I don't think we have changed the way how we approach the market. So customers know us, principals know us. I think now it's just that we have a clearer focus on what our people will do. I would say less distractions, also for myself. I mean, in the past, I have been responsible for so many other things. Now I have a much clearer focus. I can spend more time with our principals, with our customers. So for me, it's really helpful. It's a gain. It's not that we do something completely differently. It's just about the stronger focus, which helps us to perform better. And that's what we want to see. And I hope that our customers and principals will appreciate that, because at the end of the day, it's it's for them, not for us.
Mm. And in the market, lots of distributors talk about innovation. How do you think technical credibility actually shows up in a way that customers feel about their suppliers?
Mhm. That's a hot topic, and I think Omya always used to be a very innovation-driven, technology-driven company. And I know that many of our competitors in the distribution industry are very proud of having 50 or 80 innovation labs globally. With a strong manufacturing background, we really understand innovation. And so when we talk about innovation, it's really, I mean, we go deep into this, and it's not just a little bit of reformulating and scratching the surface of them. Innovation is in our DNA, and it has to be in our DNA because we still have this manufacturing arm. Don't forget this. I mean, it's still, but we use all the expertise, the people that we have, to also sell it to our customers and also to our principals. Because here, I think if you talk about science, innovation, I think it's expensive. It's a big upfront investment. It costs a lot of money for people, for the equipment, and many people cannot afford it. Again, you need a critical mass to make innovation happen, and this is what we do. And I think it becomes more and more important. I mean, for new products, but also, I mean, talking about sustainable solutions. That's nothing that happens overnight. I mean, you need to develop that, and solutions are sometimes not really obvious. I mean, it takes time and patience really to make innovation happen.
The market's obviously going through a downturn, and there's various different opinions on how we move forward from that. Do we grow through innovation? Is it M&A consolidation? Is it, you know, greater market share, for example? And to be honest, I think it's a combination of lots of different factors.
I agree.
But I think that innovation can be maybe the more poorly resourced when you're in a situation like we're in at the moment as a sector.
Yeah, but I think I see this more as an opportunity. That what we see, and we can prove it in our numbers, one element that always grows in our sales portfolio is the innovation sales.
Mm,
And it's always growing far, far above our organic sales. I mean, even faster than our acquisition-driven sales. The CAGR of our innovation sales is in the range of 25% over the past 10 years. And
mm.
this is an element of differentiation that helps you to also become more resilient in times like this. And I mean, by definition, an innovation product is a product that you sell to an application that didn't exist before. So it's always a plus, even in these very difficult situations. That's why not losing momentum on innovation sales in these crisis situations is extremely important.
And it's a balance, isn't it, between, and I'm not talking about a situation where you're in crisis, because obviously decisions have to be made
Correct.
immediately
Mhm.
to put the fires out. But there is a balance between looking at the short and mid-term and then the longer term. You want to keep the wheels in motion so that when things do pick up again, you've not lost the momentum because you've not been looking far enough in front. And especially in a difficult market, from your perspective, what becomes easier to do when you're not managing purely for the next quarter or for the next half of the year?
I think that's one of the major benefits and beauties of working in a privately owned company. I mean,
Yeah.
so half jokingly, we are quite often saying that a quarter in our company doesn't last just 3 months, it's 25 years. So we are really
Mm,
thinking in generations. And I think in times of change, rapid changes, I think long-term thinking, continuity are becoming an increasingly important value and asset. And this is something which I really appreciate because, again, coming back to the topic of innovation, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. Demand is going down as we speak, but we all know, I mean, looking at the construction and building materials industry, there's pent-up demand. At some point, it will come back. It has to come back. I mean, at
mm,
some point, hopefully very soon, these wars and conflicts will be over. And then, I mean, you need to rebuild the infrastructure. And this is what we are waiting for. And does it happen tomorrow or the day after or in the next year? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it will come back. And you need to
mm,
have the patience and also the long breath, so to speak, to be able to survive this situation
mm.
and to be ready once the market is picking up.
Yeah, and something that you and I spoke about in preparation for this podcast was the difference between privately owned and listed businesses. How do you think that ownership model changes decision making in practice, especially in a challenging market?
Mhm. I mean, in our case, I can tell you that the private ownership really helps us to create more decisiveness and agility in the decision making. Because at the end of the day, I think we are not making a decision to show a better balance sheet for the next quarter.
Mhm.
So I think it helps also to make sure that you don't deviate from your strategic path just because the situation at the moment is temporarily different to what you were expecting.
Mm.
So from that point of view, I think it's very important that this private ownership creates continuity, which helps you, but also the customers and principals working with you because it's our internal principle. But at the end of the day, this is also what we want to accomplish in our cooperation with customers and principals. We need to survive these difficult times together. So we share the pain, but we also share the good times. So that's why I think it's very important you have this long-term perspective.
Do you think that privately owned businesses can behave differently right now in ways that are genuinely strategic rather than cautious?
I would say yes, when it comes to the strategic aspects, but on the other hand, I mean, we are not living in a different universe. I mean, we are facing the same circumstances, we are facing the same economic frame conditions, so we are exposed to exactly the same situation. I think the only difference I would see is that we stick to our agenda, we stick to our strategy, we stick to our plan to develop the business. Doesn't mean that we can afford to let our results drop, but I think we don't have to show to the outside world, to the shareholders outside, that we are having super good results every quarter. Even if we have one quarter where the business is suffering a little bit, if we win in the long term, that's a win for the company.
And I think the really important part of this is whether it's a business, whether the market's going through a downturn or whether things are in a good place, it's keeping and retaining the people and making sure that you've got strong leadership to guide and support people through particularly difficult times, because keeping motivation is hard when you feel like you're pushing water uphill, which is how it's been described to me over the last couple of years. But across your career, how have you viewed what good leadership looks like, and how has that changed? Because you've seen the market in lots of different states.
Yeah, being in the industry now for more than 30 years, I think it's extremely important to be authentic, to be a good role model to the people. I think it's important that you have the competence, because people will not believe you if you have not a minimum level of competence and
Sure.
expert knowledge. I mean, you need to understand the language of the experts. You don't have to be the expert, but you need to understand the language so that you can lead them and make them successful. So you don't have to be afraid of challenges. That's very important. And leadership also means working in a team. I mean, even if you are the leader, you are part of the team, and you are only successful together in that team. And here, I think it's very important to be pragmatic, to be able to reflect yourself. I think communication is a key aspect. That's something maybe that I also underestimated in my early days in my career, how important communication is. Not all decisions you are making in a company, especially if they come from the top, are self-explanatory. You need to explain to people why you are doing this. So communication is absolutely key, because, as I said, many of these decisions are not self-explanatory. If you don't see the full picture, it's hard for people to understand. And if they don't understand, they don't follow you. So from that point of view, I think communication is a key element. And I think I'm a very pragmatic person. And I think if things are self-explanatory and logic, people will understand and they will act accordingly.
And something that you said to me again, when we were talking about you appearing as a guest, is that you wanted somebody that's listening to this who may be considering a move to an adjacent sector to be inspired by this, and to prove that you can make changes in the mid-course of your career and not just at the beginning. So what would you say to someone considering a move across an adjacent sector who worries maybe that they might not be the perfect fit on paper?
I would say, don't be afraid. Be open for the challenge. Try to get out of your comfort zone. Even if as you said, your skill sets on paper do not really fit exactly to what someone is requiring from you. But I think you can learn. In business, I mean, in life, you learn all the time. You need to develop your personal and professional skills continuously, from the early start of your industrial career up to the point where you are at the top of a company. So I think that's why I think not being afraid of new challenges, and being curious, actually, to make inroads into new applications, new companies, new collaborations is really something that helps you at the end of the day.
And what a great way to end the podcast. Now, at the end of every episode of season 2, I've been asking the guests the same question. So to close everything off, what's something that you've changed your mind about over the course of your career?
I wouldn't say something has really changed my mind, but I think I was already elaborating a little bit on it. It's really about self-reflection and communication skills. That's something that it's and you need to make sure that you always stay close and connected to each and every level in your organization. If you just run the business in a sterile or detached way, you will never be successful. Communicating with the people, paying respect to the people, listening to the people, that's extremely important. So communication I think this is one of the keys to success. And this is something that you have to learn. And I think this is applicable to all levels in an organization.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Thoralf. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. My pleasure.